Okay, good evening, everyone. It is now 6:33. I'm going to bring this meeting of Lawndale City Council to order. I'm going to ask the city clerk to give the roll call. Madam City Clerk.
All right, good evening. Mayor Pro Tem Cuevas.
Here.
Councilmember Suarez.
Here.
Councilmember Kearney.
Here.
Councilmember Hoffman Gorman.
Here.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, Madam. Mayor Pro Tem Cuevas will lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Pastor Magliano from Hope Chapel, Hawthorne, will lead us in a word of inspiration. Let's have
Please
the Pledge of
stand.
Allegiance.
Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff, everyone. Just a brief scripture, prayer, and a reminder this evening. The scripture's from Colossians chapter 1. It speaks of God the Son, and it says, "He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." So that includes the universe and everything else, our city, families, individuals. He is the cohesive element that holds us all together. Let's pray. Father God, we do acknowledge you, and we do thank you that you sustain all things by your power. And Lord, we acknowledge you as the source of everything that we need for life and godliness and everything else. We thank you that your eyes upon the city of Lawndale and upon every person, Lord. We want to bring to you tonight, Father, every citizen of this community, children, youth, adults, seniors. Pray your blessing upon them, your protection. Lord, we ask that any plan of evil would be thwarted and that you would be glorified in each life. We thank you for those that you have raised up to help us and protect us. Pray that you would help them and protect them as they help and protect us. We commit this meeting to you, Lord. We pray that your will would be done. I personally pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Just a quick reminder, Easter this weekend. If you don't have a place to worship, you're invited to Hope Chapel, Hawthorne. Something for the whole family, an inspiring message, good music, and you'll be blessed. Take care.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for always being here. We appreciate the words of inspiration. We do have a presentation. We had a presentation for two members of the commissions who are outgoing commissioners. In their absence, we will make sure they get their plaque. We do have Commissioner Erica Escamilla. She's on our planning commission. She's the outgoing commissioner. We thank her for her service, as well as Lavia Diaz. She's on the beautification committee, and we thank her for her service to the beautification committee. And we have Cassandra Ferrer, who's also on the beautification committee. They serve the city with honor, and we want to thank them for their service to the city. I don't believe they're here tonight, and so we'll make sure we get their, we got a nice little plaque for them for their services, right? See that? And so we'll make sure that we give them their certificates in appreciation for their service.
It's too late.
Yeah. Okay, I've just been informed as Mr. Eric. Did I say he, she? Okay. All right, there we go. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. City Manager. Always on the one. Okay. On the one means you're always ready. Ready to go. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is our public safety report. Let's hear from our Sergeant Smith of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm here tonight to present the Public Safety Report for March 20th, 2023 through today, April 3rd, 2023. First, I'll talk about calls for service, and I thought it'd be good to kind of see where we are in this year compared to last year.
Yeah.
And so year-to-date compared to 2022, there have been this year 1,995 calls for service in the city of Lawndale. And compared to last year, there were 2,052 calls. which is a 2% decrease this year compared to last year. And then continuing the theme of last year to this year, traffic collisions and citations. So in 2022, year to date, there were 64 traffic collisions from January to April. And this year, we're at 98, which represents a 53% increase in the number of traffic collisions in the city of Lawndale. And then at the same time, there were 445 citations written, January to April in 2022, compared to 228 for this year, which is a 48% decrease in the number of citations. And those were traffic-related citations. And then there are a few arrests that I'd like to note during this period. Deputies responded to the Guitar Center on Artesia Boulevard regarding a female who's attempting to return a stolen guitar. The deputies learned that the guitar had been stolen from another Guitar Center, and she tried to return to this Guitar Center, and she was arrested for receiving stolen property. And deputies conducted a traffic stop where they arrested all 3 occupants of the vehicle for narcotics for the purpose of sales. And of those 2 arrests, well, actually it was 4 people arrested. None of them were Lawndale residents. And this concludes my report for today. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you for the report. Any questions from Captain?
I do.
Now
I was
you're captain.
asked about the robbery at the CVS on Marine.
Yes.
I didn't have much information to give one of our citizens, so do you have any information on that?
I do. So what we know now is one suspect went into the store and he was armed with a handgun, and he took a large amount of money from the CVS. Why they had a large amount of money, I'm not sure. Yeah. But in the bag, they had a tracker on the bag, and deputies were able to track the bag and recover the money. The suspect and the firearm are still outstanding.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sergeant, for the report. Let's hear from Chief Brian Bennett from the Los Angeles County Fire Department with a public safety update. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. Good to see all of you. It's been a while since I've been able to get in here, but we've had your local battalion chiefs in here, and hopefully they've been taking care of you. So before I get to our calls for service, I just had a couple updates with some of our staffing, and then some exciting news with a new unit that's going close to the city, right up north in Hawthorne, that'll really help you guys out here. So first of all, I'm sure you're aware of it was March 1st, Board of Supervisors elected Anthony Maroney as our fire chief. I know Contract Cities, he was there, and we're really excited. Lots of years of service, and all of us in the field are really excited to get a leader in there and move us forward. So we welcome him, and I know he'll be really good for you guys as one of our cities and for the department. So also, unfortunately, we've had some battalion chief changes for your local commanders here. Mike Lewis, who may have given a report here, he's moving up to Palos Verdes. And then we're getting Brian Kane, battalion chief from our EMS section, who's coming out into the field, started this month, actually in April. So he'll be here one of these days that he works. I'll bring him in and introduce you, but again, he's had some experience on the force, and we're happy to have him here, so he'll serve you well.
Very good.
So this exciting news, this AP20, so it's a Advanced Provider Unit 20. There's 3 of them within the county, and we received them on a grant. So we have one out in the Antelope Valley, one in El Monte, and one that started here in Hawthorne at our fire station 161 to service this area. So an Advanced Provider Unit daily puts on a medical doctor or nurse practitioner and a paramedic captain. And so they're not out there to transport, but what they're out there to do is respond to those lower acuity calls for service that our folks are going on, that your folks here in Lawndale are going on, to either treat, educate, and then release our units. And it's a super successful model. It's cutting edge, and as a matter of fact, as I was coming in here, they were just responding with Engine 21. this evening. And so those repeat callers to 911 that may not need transport, we still have to go. We send an engine, we send a squad. They'll come with us, they'll educate, they can suture, they can splint, they can treat at home, leave them at home, free up these ambulances, because you guys know our ambulance issue and ambulance response times is out of control. And part of that is some of these lower acuity calls. So really exciting. We're hoping to get more, but they are here to service Lawndale, Hawthorne, Inglewood, and they're here every single day, and we're really happy to have them. So hoping that this helps us out with some of our call volume and those repeat callers. So I'll, I was meeting with one of our nurse practitioners, and another thing they can do, and I was gonna talk to Sergeant Smith, I'm sorry, is that what it was? Yeah, so the okay to book. So they can clear an okay to book, which means that one of your vehicles do not have to go to the emergency room. So that'll be really good for the city, I know for our sheriff partners. So that's good news. Okay, calls for service. Believe it or not, March was if you just talk about the number of calls, was a lower 235 calls in March. However, they were out every single day dealing with water problems, getting out there and doing whatever they could. We all know it seems like it's been raining forever. So 235 calls in March, which comes out to about 8 calls per day within the city. There were 3 fire calls, 159 EMS calls, 72 good intent calls, which are those calls where it's a good intent and they're either canceled en route or canceled at scene. And then down to 1 special interest type. And I wish I could I'd tell you what that was, but I don't know. I've actually never seen it. I just looked down. We had 1 of them.
Right.
So, but again, lower overall call volume for March, but they were out there busy, out every day, getting wet. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, again, good to see all of you guys, and hope to get out here more on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you for the report. Any
Okay.
questions from the chief? Yes, ma'am.
First of all, congratulations on the new leadership. I didn't get a chance to meet him at Contract Cities, but I look forward to working with all of you continuously and wish him nothing but the best of luck in his new role.
Perfect.
The
Thank you. I'm
second
gonna
thing,
pass
this
that along.
AP20 is pretty exciting. As a employee at Providence Little Company of Marion
Yes.
Torrance.
Okay, yes, you
And
know
in
well.
the emergency room, the being able to release and not take time into the emergency room is a really nice thing for the community. My questions with AP20 is, what is the radius it expects to cover? And number 2, how frequently will they be out of Hawthorne in the surrounding areas?
Great question. I had the same question to it was a nurse practitioner on today, and so I was up at 161, and I kind of wanted to just pick her brain a little bit. And so they basically respond out of Fire Station 161 to the first call. That AP20 would cover, even though they've never gotten there, Palos Verdes, Hermosa, which is our westerly, all the way up into Inglewood, Hawthorne, Lawndale, Gardena, so giant area. They rarely get out of Lawndale, Hawthorne, and Inglewood. But while they're treating in Inglewood, they could be getting a call here in Lawndale, which means we need more of them. Because pretty much every call, we could use them there. Because a lot of times we can just leave the patient at the house.
I
So
recognize
we
that.
want more. And so in what she wanted to do was have like these 3 cities. So maybe like Lawndale, Gardena, Hawthorne, and Inglewood.
I would love to track how many calls Lawndale gets to be part of that. And I also would like to track the number of okay to books that we're having to relieve some of that is going into the emergency rooms
Yeah.
on Lawndale's behalf, because it keeps
Keeps your deputies
the
out in the field. Yeah.
Lawndale deputies in the city too, and they don't have to take the time to come and sit down and
Yeah.
wait through what we have to go through.
Yeah, and that'll be an education piece for all of us where they can just say, hey, send AP, and then we can relieve them at scene, okay to book, and go right to intake.
That's really terrific. I'm really glad to hear. that that is come about.
Yes.
And I'm glad that
we need
it's
more.
in our area.
Yeah, they're in their area in your area as we speak.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Okay?
all right. Thank you for that report.
All right.
Thanks for being here.
Enjoy your evening.
You too. Next item on our agenda is our oral communications, where you have the opportunity to speak to this body on items that are not on the agenda. If you would like to do so, we ask that you line up by the flag. When it becomes your turn, you don't have to wait for your name. Simply approach the podium. If you would start with your name, we would appreciate that. At about 2.5 minutes, the amber light will come on to give you the signal to start wrapping things up. Let's have the first speaker. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Pina from Lawndale Library, and I am here to give a few announcements of the lineup that we have for this month. So we'll be having story time for ages 2 to 5 years old every Thursday from 10:30 to 11 a.m. This month, we're going to be having our gardening club. They're going to be meeting this Saturday, April 8th, from 10:30 to 11 a.m. And this program is for adults. On April 20th, we're going to have the Blue Submarine. They'll be coming out, and participants will have the opportunity to learn about the amazing life of sea stars and how it survives on the ocean. And they're also going to have the opportunity to experience marine life up close with live tide pool animals, sea stars, slugs, and hermit crabs. And this is for the entire family. On April 20th at 4, we will have our meeting for our monthly movie book club for teens. April 26th, we're going to be celebrating Dia de los Niños by sharing stories, enjoying books, and creating piñatas. And lastly, on April 28th, the library has partnered up with the Department of Public Health to provide free flu shots, COVID-19 vaccines, and COVID-19 boosters. And this is to anyone from 6 months of age to and older, and no health insurance is required. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Sunny Tamarkar. It's my first time here, so I wanted to talk to you guys about the parking issues at the school sites and the parking citations that have been given out. People have been getting more and more upset. Like, I don't know how to describe. It was an issue last year. It's an issue this year. I'm hoping that you guys are trying to figure something out, but I mean, people were getting pretty upset. I mean, even on Friday, this past Friday, I was dropping my kid off from school, and there were some people that were like pretty close to the parking enforcement guy, and there were multiple parents that were kind of arguing with each other, and like, I'm not sure what the issue is, but I know that it's a really stressful time for parents dropping off their kids, and I'm hoping that like adding in that citation officer, I think, makes it so much more stressful. I'm not there for pickup. I get to take my kids to school, but I can't imagine how pickup is, and if the citation officer is there, or whoever, I think that it would be worse. I'm hoping that you guys have a plan, because I don't think that it's just at Smith here, but it might be a lot of different schools. And I just hope that you guys can maybe meet with some families, let them tell you what's going on, and maybe figure out a way so that it's not a stressful kind of chaotic situation. Like, there are mornings when they see him, and like various people are like waving people by in order to make sure that they don't get cited. And I don't think that it's really clear to families, as far as I can tell, what they're doing wrong. And I think that's probably the biggest part. I don't think people know what it is that is what they're doing wrong. And so I think that it creates this kind of like atmosphere of anxiety. And that's really, I don't think, what you want, especially in case, like, kids are, they're cars, and there's people walking, and there's people driving. It really don't want to have that during that drop-off period. So, and I think pickup too. So if you guys could please look into that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So I'm here on a related issue, but it's mostly I'm here as a follow-up. I came to talk to you guys on October 3rd.
Start with your name for
Oh,
us.
it sounds familiar. My name is Morrison Lucas, and I'd like to follow up on a conversation I had, we're just going to leave it there, on October 3rd. And you may recall at the time I was complaining about a parking citation that I felt was unjustified in front of the Jane Addams Middle School. And I thought it was part of a similar set of parking citations that had been given out that morning. I thought it was quite a few, although I didn't know how many at the time. As many of you may already know, the good news is it was overturned, so the system works. The process took about 4 months. It required a fair amount of legwork. It required a lot of letters, a lot of phone calls, a lot of back and forth. It was rejected at one level and then elevated to the next level where it was, honestly, once it gets out of the city, it's pretty straightforward because most of these citations are pretty clear. And now today, after learning how to file some California PRA request, and thank you to the clerks for, I've been kind of annoying, I'm sure. I've seen the actual citation that was written at the time, as well as the photo that was taken. I'll put it here. I'm sure you can see it really well here. I want to note a couple of things. First of all, there's no zooming around going on. Everyone is driving in an orderly line, exactly as I understand that they're supposed to. And while I am indeed crossing the sidewalk, all of my doors are closed, my brake lights are on. This doesn't actually even seem to qualify as a legal stop, according to the definition of stop when prohibited, because that involves you're allowed to stop in order to avoid conflict with other traffic. There's a car in front of me that I would like to not hit, and a car in front of it that he would like to not hit. You are allowed to stop in order to not hit the car in front of you. So I don't think I was stopped. I don't think I was parked, and indeed the citation was eventually overturned. Practically, if somebody had needed to use the sidewalk, imagine a stroller or a wheelchair, that person might have had to wait 5, 10, 20, maybe up to 30 seconds. But that's how traffic works. Sometimes you wait. Nobody was blocked from using it. There's not a permanent block. Also note, the blue car right in front of me was also received a citation. So I came here last time. I said they were citing every single person. There was some pushback on that. The blue car immediately in front of me received a citation. That citation is identical. A car either 1 or 2 behind me, I can't quite tell, also received a citation. So when I say it felt like they were citing every car that went in, that's what I mean. They were taking a picture of the car in front of me. They took a picture of me. They took a picture of behind me. And the other thing is, I guess a total of 13 citations were issued that morning. So 13 over the course of 15 minutes. It seems like a lot. Again, they were all legal. I think they all could have been overturned. They were all remarkably similar to mine. Finally, my citation notes that I drove off. It says, driver drove off, as if I was fleeing the scene. And if I look at this picture, I'm not driving off anywhere. In fact, you are giving me a citation for not driving off fast enough. This is just not correct. It's put on every single citation. That actually bothers me much more than most of the other parts. So 13 citations were issued that morning. Based, again, thank you to the clerks. Is my time up? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Fair enough. Anyway, I'd like to know what the plan is. I'd like to know if I should expect to receive more citations in the future and next year.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Josh Standifer. I'm resident at 4627 West 173rd Street. 3 things I wanted to bring up. Nice to see you. Hope everyone's well. There's 3 things that I wanted to bring up to you guys, maybe just 2. The first is more of a statement. And the statement is that I want you, in regards to the Metro Green Line expansion, the row, that we, the Lawndale populace of Greenbelt neighbors that have been organizing, led by John and Chelsea and a lot of other wonderful people, are unanimously in opposition to the Greenbelt. Anyone who's found out about it doesn't want it. And most people don't know about it. And in their canvassing, they've uncovered something like 50% of residents that didn't know about it and were in opposition to it didn't even have internet connection, right? They had no way to reach out or email these board members. But what the board is interested in is a publicly informed opinion. And we are also organizing with other Redondo Beach groups, the Quality of Life, the Right of Say. All of those groups are unanimous, now working together. And their opinion is that, I know it differs from the city's opinion, but we all want the Hawthorne Boulevard option if an option is going to get chosen. And I know what that does, especially after a long conversation I had today with the businesses, the parking, the bonds that are still getting paid on that thing you guys all put together. I get it. Just if we were going to get kicked, we'd rather them take our arm than our leg. And we're in unanimous cohesion on that. The second item that I wanted to bring up is to just see if I could ask, and not agendize an item, because I don't think that needs to be done, but ask the city council members and also the mayor if you would be willing to reach out to Redondo Beach as fellow civil servants and to see where they're at with this whole thing. And I know we're going to have a COG that's happening at the end of this month, I was told, but I would like, if you guys could, just do what we do. Just gossip a little bit, talk BS on the phone, a little chit chat, and just find out what's going on to see if we're all on the same page so that we don't end up getting left in the dust when Metro tries to do something slimy. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Colleen Villegas, 163rd Street. I just want a quick comment about your response to the Metro DEIR. I thought it was really thorough and identified many of the serious concerns that the residents along the row share. I would have liked to have seen a stronger position in support of the number 2 option. But I hope moving forward we can continue to work together, the residents and the city, to come up with a reasonable solution to letting the Metro know that the row is not the preferred option. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sirs.
Good evening. My name is John Shriver. This is Jackson, my son. He's 4. We live on 163rd Street. I first just wanted to give credit where credit was due and thank you all and city staff for the very detailed response to the draft DIR. I thought it was very thorough. It's better than any other cities. I think Redondo just kind of put together a general statement. You guys did a very great legal picking apart of the DEIR, so I want to thank you guys for doing that first off. And also moving forward with the Green Line extension, I think it's important we circle back to what the mayor was saying at the last meeting, and that is the train is coming, and that, pardon my French, sucks. And at this point, I think we as a city need to decide which option sucks least and what's the best, worst option to go forward with. I think, I don't know if you have to agendize it or have some kind of community meeting about it, but I mean, you don't need to just listen from me in my street, but figure out what the community could stomach maybe, and then take some kind of stance, because I think it's coming, and if we get to the June meeting of the Metro Board and there's no stance from our city, I think there's gonna be like, well, Lawndale just says no, but they're not giving us any options. So I don't know if there's a way for you guys to somehow come up with a solution or an answer to Metro when they ask, well, what solution would you guys want? What's an option you guys want? And I don't think no train period is really going to be an answer they're going to take. I know that the city of Redondo Beach has already taken the stance that they want the Hawthorne option. I personally prefer the Hawthorne option. I know pretty much our entire neighborhood that we talk to wants the Hawthorne option. And I think, if I did my math correct, there's only 5 more city council meetings here before the possible vote by the Metro Board. So I think it's something you guys need to bring up in either at a council meeting or a community meeting or something that's just Lawndale residents, and you guys need to figure out some messaging and just take some kind of stance. Because I think right now a lot of residents, when we talk to them, they're like, well, we don't really know what the city wants. Like, we don't know which option they want. So I just encourage you guys to do that. And also, I don't know if our public safety people are here. This is a totally different topic, but when we have these big crime events in the city, you know, like there's helicopters circling, there's police cars, there's a robbery at the CVS, everyone's in the dark about it. I know the city of Lomita, the city of Lomita and the sheriff's station there, they actually have a really great social media page, and they actually post relevant events after they happen. So last night, our officers pulled over this car, and we got 4 people with catalytic converters. I'm wondering if you guys can encourage the sheriff's department to do something similar here in Lawndale, because usually if you go on Nextdoor, it's like nobody knows what the hell's happening, and it'd be nice to get updates after they happen. So totally different topic, but that's something else I wanted to bring up. So thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Randall Abram. The first speaker brought up a subject I was concerned about several months ago, the parking situation at the school. I was concerned about it because on Nextdoor they were posting pictures and making racist comments about the code enforcement officer. So I even called city staff, and I was worried about his safety. I thought maybe it had been resolved, but it sounds like that thing's flaring up again. And, you know, these are difficult times we're living in. We don't want to put people in a situation where their lives could be at risk. So I think something needs to be done to turn down the temperature there. And I completely agree with what he said. On Metro, I've been going to this council meeting for many years, and I know the city's taken a tough stance on it. If you go to the meetings, you'll see this tough stance they've taken on it. I mean, when the Galleria was doing their project, I know the city manager, who was director at the time of the community development department, went to Redondo's meetings on this, and we got some concessions from the developer. My point is, I know the city has taken some tough stances on anything environmentally impacting the city, but I do agree with the speakers that we need to coordinate with the residents and Redondo Beach. Torrance doesn't want it to go down Hawthorne. They want it to go down the road because their businesses are putting out flyers saying, don't put it down Hawthorne Boulevard. So I think the best bet is for the city to coordinate with the residents, Redondo Beach, and we'll have a very stronger position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. City, the City Council members. My name is James Tyler. I'm here to talk about the Metro, and I am definitely in support of option 2. I wanted to go on Hawthorne, and regarding the other topics brought up by Scott and Chelsea, I believe the city does need to communicate more with its citizens regarding these factors affecting us. I would have never have learned of the Metro project had it not been for Chelsea. In some sort of emails or letters from the city to inform the citizens of such a massive project would definitely be helpful. And as the speaker stated two speakers ago, stated that there should be some sort of social media platform to inform the citizens, to get the younger population as myself more involved and more applied so we can actually care about the city. Because how are we supposed to care about something if we're never informed about it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, close public comment at this time. Let's bring to the dais for any comments from the council. Let's start with Hoffman Gorman.
Thank you to everybody that came out tonight, and to those of you also that spoke. I'm going to address first those that are talking and have brought up the parking around the schools. I would like to let residents know that, yes, we have met with the leadership of the Lawndale Elementary School District, and I think that we are on our way to assist the parents as well as the residents it is affecting, we have come up with a game plan as to how we are going to move forward as far as the legal requirements that the city has to follow, as well as the educational part of it for the parents. And I think that working together between now and June, we'll be able to make some changes going into the next school year, is our hope. So that's, I hope is encouraging to you that we are sitting across the table from each other and having that conversation, all right? I would like to ask, Mr. City Manager, do you have anything to add on that subject?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Yes, we met with the Lawndale Elementary School District, subcommittee, as well as our subcommittee from the council. We met with the superintendent as well, and they will be sending out letters notifying residents of, the parking situation, to look out for the parking, how to manage that on the sites when it's coming. We haven't seen the draft letter, but they're working on that, so we can make sure parents are informed. Apparently, years back, they used to kind of do something similar to that, so we're going to do that and watch how that turns out, and hopefully that informs the parents. And then we're going to meet back after July, I believe is the plan, and then reassess see if that's working, and then go forward from there. And then that's all I have to report on that item.
And then as far as the Metro, everybody that came out to speak about the Metro and the draft EIR, thank you for taking the time to read it. The City of Lawndale has put a lot of energy in their response to the draft EIR. I agree with all of you that, yes, it was an impressive document, and it brought up an awful lot of the concerns that we as elected officials here in Lawndale share with you. As far as the social media, I don't see the sergeant standing close by. I don't know if there is a way of, we can bring it up with the sergeant. Maybe he might want to come in and comment if that's a possibility, if he's there. Yes. Would you like to come up and address? A resident had a question about social media and the use of social media to get information out to the residents. Do you have anything to add about that?
Yes, thank you for having me back up. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department does have social media, and there are deputies assigned to stations specifically that handle social media posts and things like that. I do not think that South Los Angeles Station, which Lawndale is part of, has one currently. I can find out, and I will let the council know what the status is with that. Was that the question?
Yes, that's the question.
Okay.
So thank you for the information. I hope that helped whoever was looking for social media information. Yes. John, yes. About social media, so he will be looking into that for us, okay? I think that's all I have.
All right. Councilman Kearney.
I'll just piggyback on Rhonda's. Michelle, thank you for the updates to the library events. As far as the young man that spoke, that they never got any word from the city about the events, I believe we sent out 2 mailers, a letter addressed to everybody in the city of Lawndale. A lot of folks just, see it and throw it away. But we did our due diligence. Even Metro, which I don't much care about, sent out flyers about the meetings and the stands and what they have. But we sent out numerous mailers and an addressed letter to each resident of Lawndale. With that, I'll pass it on. Yeah.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Councilwoman Suarez.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and voicing your concerns. I did have a question regarding, or maybe more of a question comment regarding the school sites and the traffic situation that's going on there. do we have a time frame for when we think we might have a resolution, hopefully by the next school year? I know we're reaching kind of towards the end of this school year, and I don't know, what we can accomplish between now and then, but it would be good to kind of have a target date for a resolution.
So the ad hoc, the direction from the ad hoc subcommittee was working with the Lawndale Elementary School. They're going to send a letter to residents. And then at that time, we'll, on a case-by-case, we'll watch how it goes and reconvene, and then see if we need to do anything else to address the issue after July, based on availability of certain members of on the Lawndale Elementary School District. But we are reassessing. At that point, we'll know. We're hopeful that the letters will go out to the parents, warning them so they know, kind of that we're out there, and so they understand that, the rules of what's going to happen, and then we'll go from there. That's the direction from the ad hoc.
And can I piggyback on Sean? The first 3 weeks of school, the code enforcement, parking enforcement out there telling you people, do not park here, you're in violation of the law. After 3 weeks, you'll start being cited. So I don't know. I'm not going to say, not be rude, I'm going to say it doesn't fall on deaf ears, but they pay no never mind to it until they get a first ticket.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can get the word out so that everybody's aware, ahead of time. Sometimes, new parents, new students. And then I'll go back, let me see, the next one I want to talk about is Metro. I know a lot of you brought up concerns, Mr. Josh. I do plan, there's outgoing council members for a Dondo event that I'm going to be going and seeing a couple of them. So I will pick their ear. I do sit on the South Bay Cities Council of Government Board of Directors, which I know you mentioned they're going to be taking a position at the end of the month. And so it seems like they're all divided, the cities in terms of it. I myself don't have an issue with agendizing this and looking at, which is the least worst option, I guess, just so that we know what, we can give some guidance. From what I understand, there's been multiple conversations, and from what I understand, the supervisor or the board members for Metro do plan to pick a route. So, it's I think the mayor said it eloquently last meeting, kind of what we're up against. Although I do have some issues with, not issues, but questions and concerns with regards to, the legal aspect of it, and then also kind of what our formal stance would be. And then I'm trying to think, there might have been one more. And I think our other council members addressed it. We did send out some communication. Metro told us that they did some flyers. I don't know how aggressively they did it and how expansive the outreach was, but we did do some outreach on our own, and it's kind of been going on for years, so we've tried as much as possible to let our residents know. And with that, I'll pass it along. Thank you, everybody.
You are. Pro Tem Cuevas.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out and speaking, and also just sitting in the audience if you didn't come up to the podium. There is an app that it's called Citizens, and that will give you, it's better than Nextdoor, because you'll see a couple of videos, a couple of pictures of what's going on in our area. A lot of our Lawndale residents don't use that, so you most of the time you're getting Hawthorne or Englewood alerts, but if our citizens would use the app Citizens to update what they see, the sheriff department and the fire department also upload calls in there. So for those of you that want to know what's going on in the area, Citizens, it's a pretty good app to use until people start posting things that they don't need to be posting. It's working. But Nextdoor, it's not a good app to find out what's going on in your city. I do agree with the citizens that we should have some type of meeting to discuss what our next step is with regards to Metro, because like Mayor said, whether we like it or not, Metro's gonna come through. If it's not in 5 years, 10 years, it's still gonna come through, so we should have some type of meeting to discuss this. And that way we could inform our residents of what our backup plan is. So with that, that would be all for me.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I too want to thank everyone who came out tonight, those who spoke and those who are here in attendance. I just have a question regarding the parking situation at the schools. I understand the report that the letter will go out informing the parents. My question is whether or not there's going to be a change in the policy or simply educating the parents on what the current policy is.
Yeah, it's going to be, there's not going to be a change in policy. We have our California Vehicle Code sections that we enforce. They are going to inform and educational through this letter like they've done in the past, apparently.
So did we determine, I assume that means we've determined that there is no change necessary. And so the problem that we're encountering is not because of how we implement the policy itself.
What the ad hocs determined was that to get the information out there so they can avoid getting a ticket, and the times, and maybe looking at they're looking at staggering. They're also looking at, how they enter into the site. They're going to be looking into some of the top issues of how they get tickets when they stop and block the sidewalks, those kind of things that they'll be looking at incorporating into their letter, so an educational letter to address those issues where they've been ongoing.
So thank you for that. So when we say, like, for instance, as one of the speakers had indicated, if you got to pause for a few seconds, yes, you might be blocking a sidewalk or blocking whatever. Is that still going to constitute, stopping, and which means it's in violation, so you may get a ticket? Because I think that's what we're trying to determine. It sounds like what we're doing is we're reiterating this is the policy, but if the policy needs to be tweeted a little bit, I don't know if they need to be tweeted, but I want to make sure that we have exhausted that and decided that no, the policy does not need to be tweeted. It sounds like to me if you're in front of someone, that person's driving, if they stop, well, you kind of forced to stop, right? Whether you're blocking someone or not, you can't go over them. But how does that make you eligible for a ticket? If that is the case that's happening.
I'm not a legal, I have to turn this over to the city attorney, but we're enforcing the California Vehicle Code. These are not policies.
I understand. When I say policies, sometimes we use them interchangeably. I understand this is the vehicle code.
Sorry,
But I also understand that's why you're given a certain latitude of discretion as well, right? When you're a peace officer, or in this case, a code enforcement officer. So obviously, if I'm parked there because I dropped off a child, I'm actually parked there. But if I'm driving, for whatever reason, the person in front of me decides that person needs to stop, then how is it that I'm blocking? I'm not really blocking. Obviously, technically I'm blocking, because it's been blocked, but I'm forced to stop. So I don't know if we're using that type of discretion. Let's say if we were using that type of discretion, I could get that. But if someone's just saying, oh, wait a minute, they're blocking, but they have nowhere to go because they're sandwiched in, so I got to give them a ticket. I'm not sure what kind of discretion we're using.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Reyes. I'll let him answer that because I'm not out there specifically reviewing those tickets. But Mr. Reyes, if you could fill in the mayor and the council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. We do write a number of sites at the schools for various things. To Mr. Morrison Lucas's point, several cars might have gotten a cite. I couldn't say off the top of my head what those sites were for. Some might have been for blocking driveways. Others could have been for double parking. Others could have been stopping at the red. So there are various reasons people get cited. All the rules are for the safety of the public and for both pedestrians and drivers. These are the rules that are, as Sean said, are the state of California rules, so we want to enforce them to protect our own liability. I could re-examine them, and then certainly we can look and see how we're enforcing things, and we certainly want to do things to the best of our ability to make sure safety is met, but also that we're doing things for the benefit of the residents and everything's done fairly. So we can certainly examine our practices, but by and large, there are instances where, for double parking, for instance, if someone stops in front of you and lets their children out, they're going to get a ticket. You have to stop because they're blocking you from going forward. As long as you're not letting your child out, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just stopping because the vehicle in front of you stopped and you have nowhere else to go. So that person would not get a citation. If that person decided, well, I'll let my kid out here too, since he stopped, I'll stop. Then now you have violated the law. You've let your child out in a traffic lane, basically, and that's not safe for your child or for other drivers. So it's basically the actions of the drivers that often get them in tickets. So we do use a good amount of discretion. As Councilman Kearney said, we do give warnings for the first 2 weeks of school at all the schools. We let parents know that you will get ticketed for this once everybody gets settled. Our hope is to educate all the parents to let them know these are the things you can get cited for. We certainly want to work with the ad hoc committee to let LESD educate parents and let them understand that these are the reasons for the tickets. And lastly, I would be happy to talk to any parent that's upset with these rules. I can certainly, I've given my number to the superintendent and let her know that I'm certainly willing to explain to parents or any drivers really why tickets are issued, not just at schools, but anywhere in the city. So.
Okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that we're using, our discretion, because when you're out there, it's a madhouse, when picking up, especially dropping off. It's a madhouse. Sometimes you're forced to. That's just where you are, Now I get you get parents that's in a rush, and I know someone's gotten a ticket or two when they used to have elementary kids, right? Because they legitimately dropped the child off in an improper manner. Either they was too far away from the curb or what have you, so that would be double parked or what have you. I get that, and it's for the safety of the children and the parents and all those involved. But I also don't understand that I also get that when it's a madhouse like that, you're stuck in situations, right? And so you shouldn't be penalized because you're stuck in those situations or what have you. So as long as we're using discretion and we have a robust education program to inform the parents of the code, the ordinance, I understand that. But yeah, let's just make sure we're doing that.
Robert, can I piggyback on that? The ad hoc committee was also brought up, like the young man, he must have left, but he was blocking the sidewalk. Why does a pedestrian have to wait 30 seconds to get across the sidewalk when he had ample time to park on the street, leave the gap in the sidewalk open? And also he brought up about the common thing, left the scene. That's just a note for Michael or whomever, is to know that the car left the scene. Nothing to do with the ticket. It's a parking citation, not a moving violation.
Right.
But, okay.
Yeah, because officers, parking enforcers don't get moving violations.
Like Sean said, we're working on different drop-off zones. Like, for instance, I use Jane Addams. You have 3 parking lots there. I recommended to the ad hoc committee that you park, 6th grade goes to the front, 7th on Fremona, and 8th on Marine.
Okay.
And as well as I've been preaching that for years since I've been in council. And like I said, totally, the ad hoc, it fell on deaf ears. And some people got offended, but, I was telling the truth. But there we are, we'll send the letter out. And as far as Lucille Smith, my granddaughters went there. Sonny knows that my granddaughters went there. And sometimes in the afternoon, they park on both sides of the street. And one side of the street is no parking at all. But why on God's green earth would you illegally park in front of code enforcement's office? It's beyond me. People watching. But I believe the tickets were a warrant. I believe you need a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And like a letter going out to educate the parents.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that, Councilman. And with that, I also want to just add, with the Metro issue, I want to thank everyone who came out tonight to speak on the Metro, the Sea Line project. We'll continue, of course, to do our due diligence. Those who haven't had the opportunity to read the comments from regarding the draft environmental impact document, I encourage them to do so. They can find that information online. Still, they have opportunity to make their voices heard by emailing or communicating with I should say, the members of the Metro Board of Directors. including the two that represent, immediately represent our area, being Mayor Butts and Holly Mitchell, our county supervisors. I encourage you to email them as well, so they can hear from you directly. But we will continue to do our due diligence on this issue. As you can tell from our response, that we have a number of concerns that we'll continue to address in whatever fashion is appropriate. But I do look forward to, of course, working with the communities outside of Lawndale, in Redondo Beach, or even if there's some folks in Torrance or wherever, so that we can have a louder impact and a louder voice. So I do feel that we should make that happen as well. But we'll keep you informed on what's going on. And thank you very much for being here. With that, I'll close the public comments and comments from the council, and we will move our agenda to I think we have our consent calendar. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
Just mention, staff just wanted to make council aware that regarding item number 5 on the consent calendar, the recommendation of the increase of bail amounts for unlicensed vending, staff did make a slight change to the verbiage of section 3, page 2, regarding some items were removed discussing construction that didn't apply to this. So those were removed, the verbiage was changed, and it didn't have a significant effect on the reading.
Okay. Okay, should that pass, the city attorney will read that ordinance. It would be a second reading. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. The consent calendar is item 2 through 5.
Can I have G5 actually pulled for a separate vote?
Okay, I don't mind. Without any objections, let's do that. Let's remove item 5 from the consent calendar and treat that separately. What is the pleasure of this body concerning the balance of the consent calendar item?
2 through 4?
2. Where is 1? 2 through, yeah, 2 through 4, yes.
I'll make a motion to accept as written.
I got confused, like, where is 1? Okay, so the item is, so the consent calendar will be item 2 through 4. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's been made by Kearney, second by Cuevas. Council, please vote.
For the consent calendar, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now let's cover item 5, a recommendation to increase the bail amount for unlicensed vending. Who wants to speak on this item?
I just pulled it separately because I just wanted to make sure I was uniform in my vote. I felt it was a little excessive, and so that's why I asked for it to be a separate vote.
Okay, I understand. Any discussion on this item? What's the pleasure of this body concerning item 5?
I'll make a motion to accept as written.
Motion's been made by Kearney that we adopt item 5 as written. That's
I'll
by
second
Kearney, and seconded by Hoffman Gorman. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, before we vote on the motion, I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The title of the ordinance is ordinance number 1198-23, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lawndale, California, adding chapter 12.66 to the Lawndale Municipal Code, regulating sidewalk vendors in compliance with Senate Bill 946. That is the title. Per item 2, you have waived further reading. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Would the council please vote on item 5?
For item number 5, the motion passes with Mayor Pro Tem Cuevas and Councilmember Suarez voting no.
Thank you. Item number 6, adoption of said resolution approving an emails management and retention policy. Let's have a staff report.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Yvette Hall, Assistant City Clerk. This report is to request consideration and approval to adopt an automatic email deletion policy in which emails that are older than 2 years or 24 months will be purged automatically by the city's system. By implementing this new policy, the city will save on storage costs, reduce the risk of exposure to litigation, and allow the purging of emails that have reached their retention to be purged and will no longer be needed. Staff is requesting that the City Council adopt resolution number CC-2304-016, email management and retention policy and procedure, and update the City Council's records and information management policy. That concludes my report, and I am happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, is there any discussion on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Just one quick comment, or I would hope that we try and preserve electronic records more than print, just to save cost on paper and, you know, save a few trees.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of this body concerning item 6?
I'll make the motion that we accept staff's recommendation.
Motion's been made by Suarez that we adopt staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
And seconded by Mr. Pat Kearney.
We flipped a coin. We flipped a coin.
Yeah, I saw him doing this. Okay, and second by
She lost
Kearney.
anyway.
Council, please vote.
For item number 6, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, madam. Next item is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'll be brief. So we met with Caltrans today. We did a drive around looking at the encampments. So we went around and talked to them. We're looking at, we're in discussions. Nothing's, in concrete right now. We're looking at maybe seeing if we can get an encroachment permit to manage some of those outdoor encampments and provide some services to some of the folks back in there. We went to about 6 sites today. And we also discussed with them some of the overgrown landscaping. We have to put in some stuff. We did see some violations of some properties. I sent you guys an email on that, as Mr. Reyes, on 162nd Hawthorne area. So we're looking into that right now. With we kind of discussed LASD. I was going to bring it up. So we had the first ad hoc meeting on the parking. So at least we got some direction on how to move forward. And then we'll revisit and regroup again in July. On the second meeting we had, I thought it went pretty well at the parks. So I made it very clear to, LASD, we want to move forward with putting together new agreements. Mr. Estes, he did a really good job. I want to thank him for all his efforts. He took the lead on that because he knows the most about the parks. So he's our front guy. He's been working with the school district, and he'll be moving forward on that and taking the lead on that. We'll be helping him, Raylat and myself. Harant was there as well. And we were working with them moving forward. It went very well the second meeting as well. Looks like we got they're gonna come back and we're looking at some options. There were some things they weren't aware of, some of the board members there that we pay for, and then vice versa. So we'll hopefully have something back before the end of, I think it's June when the written agreement expires with our extension letter. So we'll try to get that done. With regards to the metro, I just wanted to bring up, and I don't want to belabor it, we sent out, appreciate the comments from the residents. They said it was the best letter. I just want to point that out, the best letter out of all the cities, so I appreciate that comment. So I just thought that was funny. But before I wanted to caution the council, because not on the agenda, so a little latitude. We don't want to do anything yet, take an action. We don't know what they're going to choose. June we'll know. I mentioned to some of the residents, we'll know more, whatever action they take in June, because we don't even know which option they're gonna pick. And I wanted to just bring it to everyone's attention, I mentioned this, we did ask them to put an option on the table, which was trenching with the top. And now we found out it looks like it's cost prohibitive, but we'll see. So they haven't chosen an option yet, so we don't wanna be too premature, and not to mention, now under the legal standard, we're going through that level now where we're at, and under CEQA, where we've submitted our comments now. So we don't want to be premature on that and jeopardize anything on that right now, just bringing that out as a comment. And then finally, I wanted to thank Sergeant Smith and Lieutenant Osborne, because when I left here at 9 o'clock the other night, I was up at the LA Fitness. I had to park on the top. There was no parking. and I got to see the helicopter. I don't know if Lieutenant Osborne was flying it, but him and I've never seen it that aggressive. It was flying around searching for those suspects. So I want to thank the sergeant. He was texting me immediately, which gave you guys the information within minutes. So upon getting that, Sergeant Smith was coordinating with Lieutenant Osborne back at the Southwest Station. And those deputies were out there, so I want to thank them again for being on top of it and returning the bag of money. And we didn't get the suspects and the gun off the streets, but hey, we at least got the money back. But they were really flying out there hard, chasing. I mean, I thought that helicopter was right just above the CVS. That's what struck me when I was on the third party out there parking. I could see it. So I want to just thank them again and appreciate that. And then also, Sergeant, we sent down an invite to Sheriff Luna. A couple council members asked me, Sheriff Luna and the Undersheriff April Tardy, as well as you and Lieutenant Osborne, we'd like to see you at hopefully you could join us at our Youth Day Parade. And that's it.
Thank you. You sure that's it? Okay, thank you for that report. The next item is items from council members. The first item 7, is exploring the idea of the city constructing and operating its own digital billboards. This is a recommendation by myself to enter into a discussion. So what this is, the city of, and I'm just using the city of Inglewood as a model or a jump-off point for discussion, if you will. There's other cities that have similar programs. So in the city of Inglewood, as you probably, if you've been through the city of Inglewood, they have these series of billboards. They also have these on the west side of LA, electronic billboards. Some people like them, some people hate them. But the ideal is that the city of Inglewood saw an opportunity to, rather than have private parties simply put up these billboards and they get a license fee from them, which could vary from, a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000s a year, and that's pretty much it. They saw an opportunity to where they can actually own the billboards themselves, right? So it's one of those things to where if you're going to have a structure, you might as well own the structure and then lease the structure back to the billboard companies. And not only do you own the billboards, but you also, of course, will partake in the revenues stream from the billboards. So that's essentially what this is. I think we have some opportunities. Hawthorne Boulevard is a heavily traveled boulevard, as well as when you go down the 405. We're part of that 405. They have a term of art they use in the advertisement industry. Because it's one of the most heavily trafficked areas, not just in the state, but in the country, that 405 area. And so to have any type of billboard in that area, what have you, brings premium dollars or what have you. I think we're missing out on an opportunity, at least we have an opportunity to have an additional source of revenue rather than having the billboard company say, hey, we want to give a billboard, we want to give you $2,000. I don't know how much the license is anyway, but let's say it couldn't be no more than a couple $1,000, a year. We have an opportunity to have an additional revenue source. I'm not talking about having specific billboards anywhere, because that's way down the line. I just want to have discussion about the ideal of looking into the possibilities of having such, and have the city own the billboards or have interest in the billboards, if you will, and so the staff can at least look into it and then bring back more information or what have you, the pros, the cons, et cetera, on it. So that's what this it's about. You can see from the little I guess it's like the analysis of what have you from Inglewood in the, I guess it's called Wild Media. You can kind of get an ideal of what we're looking at. Of course, it doesn't have to necessarily craft exactly like this, but you can see like some of the revenue that they're deriving from each face of billboard. You're talking about, you know, for an example here, a minimum guarantee right here, $240,000. We're not getting that from a billboard. If we license a billboard today, a digital billboard today, we're not going to get that kind of return. We're not going to be sharing that type of. Talking about 50% of gross median payments right here. So that's what I don't want to belabor it, but that's what I'm looking at. Just giving the staff the instructions to look into it, you know. Anyone have any comments or want to build upon it?
I just have questions. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate this question.
Yeah.
So, you know, the function of the city government, we're not for-profit. And so I guess my concern is like the legal, you know, how does that work if you're technically not, you know, you're not a business or corporation and not for-profit? So how does it work if you are getting revenue that isn't necessarily a city service? Because I've heard of some cities that own like cafes in their parks and stuff, or, you know, I've heard some interesting things. And so I guess my question would be is, how does that work, I guess, tax-wise, or I'm not quite sure. I have a lot of questions.
And that's something that they could bring back, because, and the city attorney can opine in, but they have, in cities you have like enterprises. Certain functions in the cities are enterprises, which act similar to a business, if you will. Like if you have a transit district or what have you, those are enterprises, which is a little different from the, you know, your pothole services or tree trimming services, what have you. So it's treated a little differently because it's an enterprise or what have you. So it's treated more like a business. You want to add to that as well?
Mr. Mayor, you've started the discussion well, and to the council member's question, I think that's exactly the kind of information that we would want to look at and bring back in a nice, detailed, easy to understand form if it's the will of the council to give us the direction to bring that back. If the council decides tonight that, you know, you want to cut it off here, well, then you haven't spent any legal time on it because I haven't done any work on it. But if you give the city manager the okay to move forward, then obviously I'll move forward in parallel, and when we come back, you'll have a good legal analysis of those kinds of issues.
Yeah, because obviously this required, you know, them to enter into a contract with the, you know, with the leasee that's operating the billboards, and their job is, of course, to maintain it, as well as to enter an agreement with the advertisers, things of that nature. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of legal stuff that goes into it. But that's a good question, though, in terms of how does that work if it's since we're not for profit, so to speak.
I mean, I have no problem exploring it further. You know, we're always trying to get creative with, like, as you say, fees. I just couldn't wrap my head around how a city could actually do that. And I guess that was my concern that I wanted to make sure I understood.
Okay.
And Robert, I do have, the ad hoc is going to meet with the consultant in Clearwater sometime soon. And remember a few years ago when Jim and I were on the same thing, you brought up Inglewood. So we presented that to Clearwater at the time, but we also wanted 6 to 1, get rid of 6 of the old dingy, crappy billboards we have up, and replace it with 1 digital. So as soon as we have a meeting out, we'll keep this, well, after we figure out what Berta's question was, and we're going forward with him.
So this would be a little separate from that, in that that's whatever proposal that they have to put up on billboard. That's whatever it is. I'm not sure.
We'll separate the two.
What their proposal is. This is proposal for the city owns the infrastructure, and then we hire someone just to run it, operate it, and manage it, right? And that could be, obviously, it would be a company that's already in the business or what have you. But that's a little separate from whatever it is they're proposing, which, like I said, I don't know what it is, because they've been proposing stuff for the last 10 years. Haven't seen anything yet, so I'm not really sure.
Well, I remember they wanted to put a digital billboard 405 freeway. And I believe they wanted to pay us in the thousands of dollars, and we rejected it because that's not what we're there for. We were there to get 6 of the old ones removed for 1 new one.
Yeah.
And plus we shot down because I know the residents down that way don't want a big old digital billboard aiming into their households at night. And we even brought the dim lighting and the reflection.
Well, that's a little different. You don't want to really get too far down that road because you guys are meeting to discuss that or whatever. You want to make sure.
Well, no, we haven't set up a meeting yet, so
have a
yeah.
full meeting about
Yeah.
it. But that's a little different from this, even though it's billboards. Like what you're saying.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, it triggered another question that I would want a response on as far as if we enter into this type of revenue source, how does that, if we're the city and we make the policy and you have competitors, how does also that work in terms of, we're making the rules stuff? So that's something I'd be interested to look at.
We'll look into that, Mayor and Council.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to get more information on it, possibly
Okay.
move forward with it.
Okay. Let's get some information on it. Anyone else have anything they want to add? So we can just get some information on it. Okay. Mr. City Manager, you good?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, I think we have enough direction to move forward.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, the next item, I'm not sure whose item is this, but it's the letter to the LA County Board of Supervisors regarding opposing a special counsel to the sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. Is that you or is that you?
That's me. Okay, the LA Board of Supervisors want to do a 5-year rotation out of each station. There's some pushback. ALAD's reached out to Shirley and I believe, maybe more, and asked if we do a recommendation to oppose it. I believe it's in the best interest of the city of Lawndale. As you remember, most of us remember Sandy Nitz. He was here forever, and he was part of the family in Lawndale. I really knew Sandy Nitz. So if they decided to do the 5 years or less, I should say, Sandy could be gone. You could have a deputy over the Levita station being rotated out to Diamond Bar. So I'm going to ask the council to sign the letter to oppose the 5-year rotation as per ALADS. I know local cities, Levita's already sent the letter in, and the contract city took a position that we're annoying the Board of Supervisors. Well, I don't care. Why would we care about annoying let the Board of Supervisors know that how we feel and what our stance is. I was Lomita, Paramount, and Roddy, you were there. What was it, El Monte? Well, anyway, there's a lot of cities that sent letters, and I would hope that this council would send the same letter.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
I kind of had more questions when I looked at the letter, just because I read the report that the Oversight Committee or Commission, some of the stories and some of the situations that they put, and I felt that the letter, I'm not in support of it just because I feel like it didn't offer an alternative to what the Oversight Commission was recommending. If they're saying there's no rotation, I would have hoped that they would have, the whole point was the gang, deputy gangs, or, trying to address that issue. This was one of the recommendations, but I felt as though if you're not in support of that, what do you support to prevent this type of behavior within the department? And then the other thing that I had questions on specific to Lawndale was, I guess I looked at the number, the 55 million that they said that we're paying in liability insurance, that they're saying is a result of some of these deputy gangs. And so I had more questions as to, well, how often do we rotate deputies? Do they leave? How many actually do stay longer? And the long-term impacts of that, of what they're trying to address. So I myself am not in favor of the letter the way it's drafted, but I just wanted to kind of say how I felt about it after reading the backup.
Well, I can tell you that Sheriff Luna talking about your gangs and your cliques, is he's actually weeding them out now. And, you know, I hear concern because I sit on the Library Trust and Oversight, and there are a lot of cases where these cliques are a bit involved and we've paid out a pretty penny. But that's the Sheriff's Department to clean the house. This is just a 5-year rotation. I don't want to see, like, Sergeant Smith be here 4 years and he gets, everybody knows Sergeant Smith and bam, he's gone to Diamond Bar. That's what the policy is written for.
So, go ahead, you got a question? Yes, ma'am.
It's also because our citizens are getting used to the new deputies. And then all of a sudden, you're switching deputies and you might not get that friendly deputy that the citizens were used to. And that is getting used to them again. We've had deputies that were very friendly, and then from day to night, they were moved to some other stations, and they have to learn the process again of our city. An example is, there's a neighbor of ours that she needs assistance very often. And they switch the deputy, and they had to get used to her again. And it took a while for them to get used to her. So to change them every 2 to 5 years, it's not, for our small city, it's not a good thing. If we were a larger city, maybe, but our citizens are getting used to the deputies and the lieutenants and the service people that we have here. So that's why I'm for opposing to the 5-year change.
And I don't think it was so much as I do believe in continuity. I guess that was one of the further questions I had, is how often are they actually switching out? Because we've brought up before to the Sheriff's Department, you know, how long are they saying we want more continuity, because we weren't seeing that. And so I guess I'm trying to understand the letter. I just felt that the letter could have included, okay, if an alternative to, if you're going to oppose it, what are you suggesting we do instead to kind of address these larger issues? Because I don't know that it's impacting us so much. I know you did mention there was one case that happened in Lawndale. It seems like a majority of them are happening, you know, in other places. But if it's happening there, we're still paying in some ways through the liability insurance that we're paying extra, because the insurance won't even cover that, and we have to pay the extra fee. And so I guess that's more my concern is, I'm not so much, I do believe in continuity, but if it's at the expense of breaking up some of these cliques, then, you know, I'm a little conflicted. I feel like I would need more information before I would sign this letter. And that's just my thoughts. You know, I haven't had much conversation with, you know, ALADs and whatnot. And so I'm just going based off of what I have right in front of me.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, when we were drafting this letter, did a little research, you know, and when Councilman Kearney asked us to put together. So the scholarship out there, you know, the researchers, community policing researchers, I mean, this is separate from your item about the other background information, but research does show, according to community policing experts, that the longer a deputy officers stay in the community, they're building trust. So the more trust they build with the community, the better policing, the effective policing and patrolling and crime reduction, and just building that over report. Today I actually got out to the encampments, and you know, Sergeant Nitz is no longer with us, and I wish he was, because he used to keep all of those encampments down. They're so large on the backsides of some of the properties along the Caltrans, but he specifically spearheaded that himself, along with MSD staff and Public Works. And we lost that continuity when he left, unfortunately. And so we've seen the changeover when we had Lieutenant Osborne, now that's promoted, with Sergeant Smith doing a great job, by the way. But we hate to lose them. They rotate them. I see why the sheriff's saying it, and based on the commission study and the civilian commission. But one of the key things, you hear this over and over in government, county, state, is that continuity of that officer on the street. We're lucky we don't have as much turnover in Lawndale, but we do have deputies that want to be in Lawndale, thankfully. But we definitely would support keeping them here longer, like Sergeant Nitz. He was a big asset once he left. I mean, some of the deputies didn't know about.
Isn't this just deputies though? It's not necessarily sergeants.
Right, yeah, but even just the deputies, the changeover, losing the sergeants, all of that impacts us. I can tell you, I've received many calls from council members and residents. Once Sergeant Nitz left, once we've lost our motor, that officer, I can actually tell you, he's gone now. I saw him write 40 tickets in an hour. I was sitting on a back street over, I think it was near Avis, and he was so effective. He knew the community, he knew where people were running the traffic, the stop signs, and you just lose that continuity, and then he moved on too. So we lose those deputies, we lose that effectiveness and crime reduction and building the community up. So that's kind of where we take it from.
And again, I do believe in the continuity part. I think the part that I'm not from the letter is I feel like there needs to be, if you're not going to change that, what are you suggesting that you do? There needs to be some kind of not just we refuse to rotate, but well, instead of rotating, what else can we do? And I think that's what I'm missing from the letter. Is, not just saying no, but what are you going to do to kind of resolve this issue? And that's just my personal opinion on it. I wish I could see more stats as to our city and how often they do turnover and whatnot.
I would like to go on record as saying I support the letter. Listening to what the sheriff's station is, or what the sheriff has to say about this, I think, and ALADS, I think it moves us in a positive way with our sheriffs. I agree that continuity, we've got some sheriffs, and I'm thinking of Dean right now. Our residents know Dean. Our residents are aware of him and they trust him. And it's because of his tenure here. I think it's in the city's best interest that we want to keep our sheriffs longer.
Yeah, I believe that we should keep our deputies longer. So I'm in support of the letter. In fact, I wish there was a way that we could have deputies actually committed to staying in Lawndale for a certain period of time. Because that's what's been frustrating for me, is to have a deputy. And it's good for them because obviously, they most of the time it's because they are moved up or what have you, but you have a deputy and would be here. I've seen deputies here for 6 months. And then you don't see the deputy anymore or what have you. For whatever reason, they moved on or what have you, or 6 months, a year, 2 years or what have you. So not only am I supportive of them not been forced to rotate after 5 years, but that doesn't ensure me that they will be here for 5 years. I wish there was a way you can ensure that they would be here for 5 years or 3 years or something, right? I don't know if that's a such thing, right? Not to, unless they're being promoted. If you've been promoted, okay, you're free to roam because you've been promoted, and we encourage that. But if you're going to make a lateral move or what have you, there's a way that we can communicate to the sheriff that we would like for our deputies to stay here as long as possible, notwithstanding a promotion. I think that would be a message that we should be sending to the sheriff, in addition to supporting this letter that don't force them to rotate.
Again, I'm not against the rotation part. I do believe in continuity. It's just I feel that the letter addresses one part without addressing another part, and I wish it had that element in it, and so that's the only reason. But I do believe in, getting the sheriffs to know the community. We have had some situations where we wanted to get rid of some of the deputies that have been, that came in and didn't have favorable situations with some of the residents. I remember a few complaints that we've gotten. So that's just it. It's just, I think the letter needs to address the other part. That's the only issue that I had with it.
And maybe when we have our next joint sheriffs and city council, Sheriff Luda could show up here. Right, Sergeant Smith? Right. So maybe we'll invite him too,
He said, right.
and maybe he can answer some of the questions.
Fair
Okay.
enough, because
Yeah.
I think there needs to be,
Yeah.
we've talked about it for years and years about keeping it long, but it doesn't actually seem to be happening.
Yeah.
So I don't see them actually making an effort to keep them long, so I guess the letter kind of just, to me, is a little bit of a wash, because, you know, it doesn't seem like they're staying that long anyways. That's
Yeah.
just the concerns I had.
Okay. What is the pleasure of this body concerning item 8?
Well, I'll make the motion because I put it on the agenda
Okay.
to send a letter, hopefully with the full council,
Okay.
signatures on it.
We can do that without any unanimous consent if there's not
Okay.
any objections. Is everyone okay with that?
Well, I just had concerns because I wanted more info, so I don't
Okay.
feel at this time I would make it informed, so I would ask to vote, just because at this time I'm not in support of the letter.
Okay, then there won't be unanimous consent then. So let's have a vote. So we have the motion, Mr. Pankurian.
Yeah.
And who wants to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, Hoffman Gordon will second the motion to send the letter. Okay, any further discussion? Council vote.
For item number 8, the motion passes with Councilmember Suarez voting no.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Oh, that's not the same thing? Okay, item 9 is Mayor and City Council's report. Let's hear from Councilwoman Hoffman Gordon.
So I've attended the California Contract Cities monthly meeting. I've attended the California Contract Cities Legislative Committee meeting. As was mentioned many times tonight, I've attended the Lawndale ad hoc, Lawndale Elementary School ad hoc committee meeting. And I also attended an ALADS event in which Sheriff Luna did speak, and I'm very encouraged by what we heard from him. There were a lot of things, a lot of questions that member cities had thrown at him, and his answers were appropriate, and I think Lawndale stands to be happy with the leadership of our sheriff's department now. It's the sad takeaway on it was to hear that we are 1,800 sheriffs short here in the county. The positive part of that is he knows for sure he's got 8 academies, each one being about 100 people this year, and he's hoping for 10 academies this year. He also has 1,000 jobs for civilians open. So if anybody is looking for positions, boy howdies, the LA County Sheriffs could sure use an application or would consider it. The other thing I would just like to do is to remind the residents, this coming Saturday at our parks is our local egg extravaganza for our children, both at William Green and at Jane Addams. Mr. Estes, would you like to say anything about that?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you, Ms. Gorman, for calling me up. Yeah, so the Easter extravaganza is at Jane Addams and William Green Parks this Saturday. The program runs from 9:30 to 12:30. We'll have the 0 to 7 years old, or 7 below, should I say, at William Green Park. 8 to 17, we don't get many 17-year-olds. We usually max out about 12, but they're welcome to come. 8 to 17 will be at Jane Addams Park. We'll have all kinds of activities. Each site will have 3 Easter egg hunts with about 3,000 eggs in each area. That's about 50% up from last year. So we'll have face painters, balloon twisters, balloon artists actually, trackless train for the young ones at William Green Park, scavenger hunts for the older kids. 3 hours of just nonstop fun. So we're inviting any and all out, residents and non-residents alike. So 9:30 Saturday morning. William Green, and Jane Addams Parks. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll pass it along.
Well, Rhonda attended the same things I attended, so I'll pass it on.
Okay. Councilman Suarez.
I just had the
Councilwoman.
subcommittee for the parks agreement. I think the city manager already spoke about it and what we're doing, so I'll pass it along.
Okay. Pro Tem Cuevas.
I attended the ALADS and Cartrack City dinner with Sheriff Luna. All the questions and concerns of the cities were answered very positively by him. I think we have a pretty good leader right now in our hands in the Sheriff Department. Hopefully he'll continue to do what he said he'll do. I also attended the City and School District Parks Maintenance Ad Hoc meeting, very positive. Hopefully our next meeting we could narrow down the little details and come up with a good contract. I want to thank staff for the detailed DEIR, whatever, the Metro thing. It was well-written and excellent job to staff, especially Jared and the attorney that assisted us. And I also want to thank one of our citizens, Chelsea Schreiber, for taking the community input letters to the Metro office on Friday the 24th, even though she had trouble getting into there. She went there with her 2 little kids and walked around until the letters got delivered. So thank you, Chelsea, for doing that. And that will be all.
Thank you for that report. I attended a meeting with Supervisor Holly Mitchell, convened a meeting every once in a while since she's been in office, convened a meeting with the mayors and her supervisor. I used to say that correctly. Her supervisor district. And this time we had a joint meeting actually with the Mayor Karen Bass, LA mayor. There was about maybe 7 of us or so. We had a little meeting, basically a dinner. You know, had a little dinner, just talked about mutual concerns or what have you. One of the major topics, of course, was the housing issues. Everyone knows that we're facing a housing shortage, and we all agree that all the cities have to do their parts in terms of providing more housing opportunities. We also agree that some of the numbers that we've been assigned to is being unrealistic, you know, or what have you. And so there was no one that thought that our numbers were where they should be, and that they were definitely out of whack in how we came up with those numbers. No one's still able to understand those numbers, including Mayor Bass and Supervisor Holly Mitchell. One of the things we touched on also is LASA. So LASA, you know, is the homeless agency that's an agency basically that's make up the city of LA and the county of LA, or what have you. And one of the things that that the mayor addresses that the agency doesn't really support all of the counties, all of the cities as they should. And I made the point that one of our frustrations, at least mine, is that it seems like it's a heavily leaning LA agency. And they tend to agree, both tend to agree, in that there needs to be some reforms to where this agency, if it's not LASA, some other agency that's actually serving all of the cities, you know, and not just the city of LA. Obviously, they serve more than the city of LA, but it has seemed like, you know, based on our experience, my experience, that it's more heavily, you know, LA leaning, you know, seeing that it's a joint, you know, powers agency between the city of LA and the county, right? Even though the county obviously serve cities, you know, outside of the city of LA. But that was interesting dialogue. So that's one of the things that both the supervisor as well as the Mayor Bass is going to be working on. So we'll see how those shape up or what have you. But housing was really a big issue for all of the cities that were in attendance. Other than that, I did attend a meeting with a group of folks that's concerned about the Metro Green Line extension, and we went over some, the different things they would like to see happen on both alternatives should one be adopted versus the other, or what have you. So we continue those discussions, and that's all I have. With that, I know I have an adjournment, and Rhonda Hoffman-Gorman has an adjournment as well, right? Let's start with this one. So we have a young fella who unfortunately passed away, which was the chairman of the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. We're all familiar with the South Investment Board. You're probably familiar with Wayne Spencer. He's the friendly giant. I call him the friendly giant. Oh, I have a little, thank you. Unfortunately, he passed away. He just recently passed away. And I do have a little information I want to read. The family of Wayne Spencer is saddened to announce the passing of Wayne. Wayne died on Sunday, March the 12th, in Inglewood, California. Wayne Spencer was born in April 5th, 1952, in Kingston, Jamaica. Did you guys know he was Jamaican? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's Jamaican, okay. And he has a lot of jobs, too, a lot of jobs. Everybody knows Jamaicans have a lot of jobs, right? Right. Real nice guy. Wayne's early high school years was spent at Calabar High School in St. Andrews, Jamaica, where he participated in track and field. He specialized in the high jump. He immigrated to the United States in 1969, where he completed his high school schooling at Tech Neck High School in New Jersey. In 1973, he moved to California to attend Northrop Institute of Technology to study aeronautical engineering. After his service to Northrop, he became an entrepreneur, opening up his first security company. Wayne's presence in the community, in his family and friends and colleagues, was robust. He loved to sing. That was his hallmark of his life, and he remained active in the Barbara Morrison Performing Arts Center and was the founding member of the Hummingbirds Village, a performing group representing the folk tradition of his native Jamaica. As a business owner, Wayne built the longest running black-owned security company in the nation, which served the cities of Inglewood and Greater Los Angeles for over 40 years. And that was called Spencer for Hire Security. He was the chairman of the Thunderbirds District Boy Scouts for 13 years and the chairman of the Inglewood Police Oversight Commission. He was also chairman of the South Bay Workforce Investment Board for 20 years. He was there for a long time, put in a lot of good work. He will surely be missed. He leaves behind his 3 children and his brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, and a whole host of communities and members, and including the staff at Spencer for Hire. We give our condolences to his families, and condolences can be sent. We have an address for condolences that want to be sent to 9009 South La Cienega Boulevard, Suite A, Inglewood, California, 90301. And you can send flowers to Grace United Methodist Church. And that's Wayne Spencer. We will surely miss Wayne. He was always a pleasant individual. And he can sing, by the way. He was a real good, I mean, it noted that he was in the singing group, but he actually could sing, right? Had a really nice singing voice, we miss him greatly. So we will adjourn in his memory tonight, and we also have another adjournment. Yes, ma'am.
So I was informed yesterday we lost a longtime Lawndale resident, Thomas Anderson. He was a neighbor of mine for probably 60 years in my own neighborhood, and he was always the happiest and most inviting individual in the neighborhood. I don't think the man knew a stranger. He was also very active within the Lawndale LDS ward. His wife played instruments. He was one of the people that was always at the front door greeting people as they entered the ward. And he was employed by Centinela Valley High School District, so the kids up at Hawthorne High that graduated while he was there always knew him as Red because of his red hair. And another important thing about Tom was he was Ed Roberts' son-in-law. And that might not mean an awful lot to some people around here, but I think it does to Pat and some of us oldsters, because at one point, Ed served as city council, and he was rotated in as mayor quite often back in the day before we had an elected mayor. And so many of those crucial decisions that were made in the early 70s all the way through the late 70s, Ed probably had a hand in it. Ed probably had a hand in this city hall being built. So it's a name that we shouldn't forget here around us. But one of his own son-in-law now has passed away. And they, in 2016, were fortunate as they aged, their son moved them to Utah to live with him. And so tonight, my condolences to his wife, Shirley, and to his children and grandchildren and his loved ones. That's all I have.
Amen. Thank you for that. We will adjourn his honor and memory as well. And the next council meeting, we will adjourn. The trustee, Kevin Brown, certainly passed away. He's trustee of the El Camino College District. For those who may not be familiar with him, he was the Inglewood representative. And so he certainly passed away. And so we'll get some more information on him, and we'll adjourn in his memory at a future meeting. So with that, the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawndale City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, April 17th, 2023, in these here chambers. It's now 8:20. This meeting is adjourned.